I'm Scott of Scotties Gun Works. Just going to make another quick video here. This time we're going to make a video on repairing a stock. I've done these kind of videos in the past, but what we're going to do here is we're going to refinish this stock right here, and you can see how it's got a big chunk taken out of the toe of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of, walk you through how I would repair this. We'll take and flatten it out and add a new piece of wood, black walnut. Probably use this blank right here, but first I got to make sure that when I do this that all the grain's going to flow together. And you kind of gambling a little bit. I mean, you can kind of get it close, and of course the bigger it is, the harder it is to get it close. But sometimes you'll cut this out and it'll look just perfect, and then you'll start sanding into it and the grain will kind of move on you because it's different as it goes into the wood, and it's hard to kind of judge that sometimes. But we're gonna give it a go. Obviously we ain't got nothing to lose with this one because it's definitely missing that wood altogether. So anyway, that's kind of what we're going with. We're gonna refinish this. This right here is a stock off my Crip notes here. This is an MP34 stock. Pretty old stock. But anyway, going to get all these little dings out of it and going to attempt to leave the little serial number there. I don't know if you see that or not. We'll try to leave all that on. Try to leave as much detail in here as we can. But at the same time, we want to try to make that look. Obviously the goal is try to make it look like it never was broke, but it's really hard to do that, but it'll definitely look a lot better than it does right now. Okay, we got the bipod set up. I don't know how good a job it's going to do in kind of showing the detailing over here. I know a lot of times on my video I don't never show me wearing my respirator or my dust mask, and I can't stress enough how important it is to wear this when you're working with this kind of stuff. And a lot of times I won't wear it because of the video. That way I won't sound muffled. And plus I'm in a well-ventilated area. This place right here is like being in a cyclone. I mean, it sucks air through constantly, so it's like a big paint booth, I guess. So, that's one of the reasons why a lot of times, I can get away without wearing it. But I can't stress enough about how important it is to wear your dust mask, wear your safety equipment, okay? But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and do some more sanding on this right here. And we'll kind of look at the progress as we go. There we go. See how smooth and flat that is now? That right there is about as flat as that needs to be. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take that wood and I'm going to sit down and I'm going to try to match it up. Then I'll draw out the the shape of it, what I need to do on it, and let you in on that. Right now I'm going to cut the camera off, and alright, I got a good piece here that I found. I think the grains match up pretty good on it. I started sanding it because I wanted to sand into it a little bit before I cut the video back on. But anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to flatten this out to where it's got a pretty good fit on this piece right here. We're just going to keep matching it up there as we go. It's all common sense. There's a belt sander or a disc sander, whatever you might have. Keep letting it do its thing there until it's good and flat. I got a little bit of a indentation right there. got it now. Take our safety equipment off. Now basically what I'm going to do now, that I've got two flat surfaces here, I'm going to hold that up there like that. And the object of the game is to make sure that the grain is pretty straight with, you know, the grain that's on the stock. In this case here it is. I mean, it looks like it is. Of course, when we go to cut down inside of that, it's probably going to change a little bit because it's such a big piece of wood. But anyway, what we want to do is we want to kind of eyeball it. We'll try to hold this up here. Let me just see if I can do this, and that way y'all can kind of get a better idea of what I'm doing here. I always want to make it a lot bigger than what the wood is, or the stock is. I know if I got a lot on this big end right here, it's going to be more than enough on everything else. Now, see how I draw the rest of the shape of that stock? That's going to tell me right there we got plenty enough wood. And it ain't going to do nothing but taper as we go up. So that tells me that I got plenty of wood there to blend in. So I'll make a few little modifications on this. And what I'll do is I'll aqua glass that on there. And we'll show the process here in a few minutes. Okay, I discovered that there was 4 holes drilled in that piece of wood that we selected. You know, with my final inspection, I was going to inspect it to make sure, you know, it was going to be the right piece of wood for this, and it looked really good up until these holes here. And I didn't think they were as deep as they was. I took a toothpick and I could go all the way in pretty deep, and you know, I could probably fill in with aqua glass. Would be no big deal, but I just decided to go ahead and get another piece of wood. So I went on and cut another piece that is a lot more better than that piece there was, I believe. Looks to fit the gun better. So basically I just did the same thing. I drawed it out on there, as you can see. So now I'm getting ready to prepare to aqua glass it on there. I went on ahead and cut this out into a wedge. And what I'll do is I'll probably just put it on like that, let that get totally dry, and then just shape it in with the wood. I'll get that prepared, and we'll go over that. Okay, what I'm going to do next here is I'm going to cut the little slots in this wood here, and some little slots here in the stock. I got it over here. That way, you know, it'll have something for the aqua glass to adhere to. I mean, it's going to adhere to the wood really good anyway. But that's just a little extra step I got a little old cutting wheel on this Dremel tool, and I draw me a little, so you can see that, some lines there. That's kind of the shape of the stock. That way I'll know not to get over too close to the edge. Just basically a few of them in the middle is all you want to do. Nothing to it. Got a few of them in the wood here, about middle ways. You don't even really need to do this too much. You don't want to get over too much to the edge there, because remember it's going to point down, and that big chunk's going to be, you know, tapered off. Or going to be cut off by right there. It tapers down. So, I mean, this right here is just basically roughed it up a little bit. Same way with this right here, and in the middle. And then what we'll do is we'll take our aqua glass. I use the aqua gel, and I'll mix it up, and I'll put a little coloring in it, and then I'll put the wood on the stock here. Alright, we're ready to mix our aqua glass now. And I thought what I would do is kind of go over the mixing procedure of the aqua glass. It's real simple. I mean, it's just all common sense. You take half, but you don't over mix it. You don't want to mix up more than you're going to use. So it ain't going to take much. I put some coloring already on this, so basically what we're going to do here, I'm going to show you. Just want to make sure you got equal parts of the rosin, how you pronounce it, resin, and equal parts of the hardener, and that way it'll dry like it's supposed to. You got resin and you got hardener here, and you got to make sure they're equally mixed. And you can just kind of look at it. I mean, you got a little measuring thing you can use, but really it's not rocket science. It's really easy, just common sense. You know, you got about that much of the hardener there, and then what you want to do, take your paper towel and clean your mixing stick before you go into the resin. Same procedure. We just use common sense with it. You know, if you get it off a little bit, it ain't gonna matter, as long as it ain't too bad. But I mean, basically, you just make sure the piles are both the same size. You know, and then a little more of that resin on there. Once you get them equally matched. And I done put the brown color in there, the dye. And you don't want to get it too dark. Just something you kind of use common sense with. I mean, you know, that's one of the things about adding wood. A lot of times you'll be able to tell it no matter how good you do it. We just want to keep it, just want to mix it up really nice to where you got a nice texture here. You know, it's a gel, so it's sort of thick, which that's what I like on this, because it don't run everywhere and it kind of stays where you put it. And you can get the liquid aqua gel, and that's really good too. Aqua glass, what they call it, and it sets up pretty fast. This right here, you got about an hour, maybe 2 hours to work with it. So I just like to take my time with it. I just, you know, mix it up and want to make sure it's thoroughly mixed. And it's really easy to tell when you got that dye in there, because it'll all be the same color. When you don't put the dye in there, it turns sort of a yellowish color. That's a good way to tell it's all thoroughly mixed. But as you can tell, it's all one color. And then what we do with it, just take and, I don't know if you can see that or not. I may bring the camera over here and give you a bird's eye look at it. Let me see if I can set this bipod up right here. There we go. All right, yeah. And you just basically just put that on there. Make sure you fill those little crevices that you cut in, and be generous with it. Don't hold back. I mean, just gob it on there. That way you got plenty of ooze whenever you press the two pieces of wood together. Same with this piece right here. Just kind of keep it within your lines that you draw, because that's where you're going to be making your contact. Try to use pretty much all of this, because we don't want nothing to go to waste. If we do have any waste, it'll just be what oozes out. And I'll clean that up, and then we'll sand off what don't come off after it gets good and dry. You can also tell how well it's mixed up too when you spread it on a piece of wood. There you'll see light spots if it ain't mixed good. And you kind of finish mixing it while it's on the wood, you know, like this right here. Like I said, it won't matter if you cover that whole flat piece, but Just want to make sure that you got it thoroughly covered, because we don't want to miss it. When it's all said and done, we want to make sure we got a good bunch of it on there. And then you just basically take your piece of wood, the two pieces there, and kind of look at it and, you know, use common sense with it and kind of circle it in, you know, to where you're getting all the air bubbles out of it. Just kind of look at it again. Just use no common sense. Nothing to it. No need making it any harder than what it is. It ain't really hard at all. Take your finger and kind of clean up the. And I'll bring the camera over and kind of show you. And it's important to get more than enough on there, because it's hard to put aqua glass on top of aqua glass once it is set up. It won't stick. So we want to make sure that we're leaving ourselves with plenty of wood there, with a good aqua glass seal. And that looks great. Over and get a paper towel and just kind of eyeball it. Like I said, you got plenty of wood there. We want to make sure that when we cut our taper in there, you know, that we didn't slide the piece of wood over too much and then we run out of wood when we go to cut our taper. We want to make sure there's plenty of wood there to work with when it's all said and done. Basically, just make sure you got even parts on both sides. This side right here ain't going to take as much wood, so I'll kind of favor the other side by giving it more wood, because this side right here, you ain't got much of a curve. This side right here, well, you probably are gonna have more of a curve on this side right here now that I look at that. So you want to make sure that you got a little more wood on this side right here. You just have to look at it, get back, and you want to take and you can see how I don't know if you can see that or not. Kind of draw the pencil line right there to kind of complete the shape of that butt stock, and that's kind of my guide. And of course I draw some little lines on each side of that. Just kind of look at it and eyeball it, and probably will be giving it more wood on this side right here, because we do have more of a contour to cut. Looks great. Hold it there for a second. What I would probably do in this situation, so it won't slide on you, you can use surgical tubing if you wanted to, but I'm going to use masking tape. And basically what you want to do when you're taping it down, I just want to make sure that the aqua glass is evenly distributed and my wood's about where I want it. I don't want to run out of material when I go cut it. Like I said, probably more wood on this side right here. That's what I want. I'll take a piece of this tape here, you know. You ain't got to put a lot of pressure on. All this wood, all this tape here is going to do is just basically make sure nothing's sliding. It ain't supposed to be sliding. That wood, I have come in here before and done something like this, and I don't know, just ever so slowly just would move. Of course, you wouldn't catch it till it done dried. It done slid all the way over, and then you gotta cut it all off and start all over again. makes for a bad day. But I believe that right there is going to be just fine. Just have to keep kind of looking at it, making sure that there is plenty there, you know. And see how I got plenty of ooze out in between that? That's what you want. I mean, we know it's a good close fit. We've seen that. So that ain't going to do nothing but make sure we got a good seal. We got plenty on the other side. I don't know if you can see that or not. Just light over here. And I believe that's going to do that. We'll just let that set up. And we'll come back tomorrow. After it gets good and dry. And then we'll cut all the excess off that we don't want as far as the wood is concerned. And we'll take our rasp, you know, our files, and then we'll just cut everything, and we'll just, you know, make everything look like one piece. I believe we're off to a good start. That right there is on there really good now. Now I'm fixing to go on over here and start cutting it down. I'll probably use the bandsaw or the sander over there and some hand tools, and we'll just start shaping it out. I'll go ahead and get started on it. Then I'll try to set the camera up where, you know, you can kind of watch the technique. Okay, quick note. What I'm doing here is I've started cutting the contour on the piece of wood out there. As you can see that this stock here has a slight curve to it, and what I did is I'm gonna go ahead and cut that curve all the way out to the end of the wood. Then I'm gonna lay the metal butt plate on it like you see here, and then I'm gonna take a pencil and draw around it, just around the bottom half there, and that's gonna be my guide. I'll go ahead and get that part done. Then I'm gonna set the bipod up, and then we'll kind of make a video on how to cut that big block of wood on the end there down and shape it in the same shape as the stock. Probably be using a draw knife, several little tools there to do that. You know, the key to it is just take off a little bit at a time. You don't want to get no big hurry with it. But that's where we're at right now, and I'll go ahead and get this tweaked and get the bipod set up, and we'll finish it on out as we go. Alright, I hope y'all can hear me. We're over here at the bandsaw, and basically what I do is I've got a round bandsaw here. It's got the round roller on it, and I'll kind of use that to slowly cut the contour in by taking the wood off a little at a time until that's good and flat. Keep it good and flat and level. That's all you got to do. Good and flat and level, and then just bring it on out as you go. Because I've only got one hand here I'm using, and I'm using the other hand to hold the camera. Like I said, I'll set the bipod up here in a little while, but right now there's no real place to put it. But I just kind of want to let you in on that. That's how I would put that contour in with that. You can use a bandsaw, I guess, if you want to cut it. This to me is a whole lot more accurate. Just little pieces off at a time, basically is what we're doing. You know, I'll set the camera down here in a few minutes, and then I will go ahead and cut that. But that's how that's done. That's how I took that much of it off so far. Okay, I got the bipod set up here. I'm going to go ahead and finish cutting this because I can show you probably better than I can explain it. But anyway, you can see how I'm doing that. I'm cutting that off. I'm just kind of following that right there. That's my pattern right there. And I'll just swoop it on into the piece of wood there. Then I'll just probably just take a light sanding on the whole thing once I get to my goal. So I'll cut the sander on. Hopefully you can hear me talking if I do any talking. But here we go. Got a hard wheel right here. It's not a soft wheel, it's a hard wheel, and that's what you want. Have to watch it the whole time. I'll make sure it stays straight with this right here. And I'll focus on this end right here once I get that blended. Take the metal butt plate and I'll just kind of set it up there, making sure that I ain't taking too much off, and I'm not. As you can see, it's got a little ways to go, and that's good. What we want to do is we want that to sit flush where we can't see no light between the butt plate and the wood. Start right here and kind of work your way towards the stock with light cuts, making sure this right here is square with that wheel. Wheel being the sander wheel here. The closer you get, the lighter you get with it. And I'll cut the camera off because it's going to take a few minutes, and then I'll show you the result. I just kind of wanted to show you this, that way you'll have an idea of what I'm doing. Alright, here we are. Got that all cut down. You can see a few little gaps between that, but that ain't much to worry about. The butt plate, the metal butt plate's got some bends in it. Once I get all that straightened out, that should pretty much be flush enough where you can't see no daylight through there. I mean, I'll tweak it a little bit with a hand sander, but basically what it all boils down to is once you get to that point, you take a pencil and you just mark around it. And now what we're going to do is we're going to cut just a little bit bigger than that pencil mark and start cutting the contour. And I'll go ahead and get started on it, and then when I get it all set up, we'll set the bipod up and kind of walk you through that little process. Now we're set up on the old familiar stock vise, if everybody remembers it from other videos. And if you don't have one of these fancy vices here, you know, regular vise like that right there will work just fine. I'm going to try to set this bipod up here where I can kind of explain how I'm taking some of the wood off. And what I've got here, folks, I've got a little small planer here. You get them at Lowe's, places like that. And it seems to do a really good job. I tested it out before I cut the camera on. And basically, you know, if you got a big one like this right here, you want to be careful with it because you don't want to damage the stock or anything. That right there seems to be about the right size, excuse me, for what we're doing here. And basically what you're doing is you're just taking off pieces of wood and you want to follow the contour of the wood here, the stock. And you'll use this, and then when you get down so far, you'll take it off and you'll go over there to the belt sander. You kind of start fine-tuning everything. Still got a good ways of wood to take off here, and you're probably saying, why don't you just take it over and cut it off? And I could do that, but with me, I'd rather just leave myself, like I said a while ago, leave myself plenty of wood here. Just take my time with it. The guy told me one time, if you ain't got time to do it right the first time, you probably ain't got time to do it over. So kind of keep that little philosophy in my mind. This right here seems to be doing a really good job. You can do it any way you want to do it. This right here is the way I choose to do it. It just seems to do a really nice job when it comes to fitting this wood. If you're dealing with a big old piece like this. And it'll take a few minutes to do this, so what I'll probably do is end up cutting the camera off. I just kind of wanted to get you an idea of what I'm doing here to take that down, but I'll cut the camera off and go ahead and get it all shaped up. And if I change machinery, if I decide to go over to the belt sander, which I probably will, I'll turn the camera back on and let you in on that. Okay, here we are so far. I was going to take it over here to the belt sander and got ready to get it all set up and everything, and that thing's got a rip in it, and you know what, I ain't got no more of those belts. So what I did is I brought it back over here and I took the belt sander here, the hand belt sander, and I'm kind of shaping it up a little bit. Still got a ways yet to go. Basically took it down, you know, with these tools right here. Now I'm just going to go ahead and cut the contour more closely. As you can see, I still got the line under there, and you can see how close I am to it, and I don't want to go past that, obviously. And what I'll do is I'll probably take the belt sander and maybe just touch it up a little bit, and then I'll probably put a block sander on it and go ahead and fine tune it. And at that point I will take the metal butt plate, and I'll probably go ahead and fit that on there and sand that in together. It's probably how that'll go down. Let's see, basically all you do when you're doing it this way right here, so I can set this bipod up here, I can at least demonstrate a little bit. I think it's going to cooperate. But anyway, basically what we do here is just put it on this thing right here. I put it in a vise like that one right there, and just take your belt sander and just kind of follow the contour of the wood. Get it down as close as you can, and then just take you a block sander and go ahead and touch it up with that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take the belt sander and get as close as I can with it, and then I'm going to set the bipod up somewhere in here, and then I'll do some block sanding. Okay, I got it set up in the barrel vise. I can make this thing here work. But anyway, basically what I'm doing now, I've pretty much got the big pieces of wood out of the way. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the little planer here, and I'm going to kind of bounce back and forth to the planer to a little block sander. And I got it adjusted where it's just taking little shavings of wood off, just kind of taking it into the contour of the stock. Take too much of it off. This thing here works great. Trying to get it adjusted because I don't want to take just little pieces off at a time. And I'm keeping an eye on my mark back here too, because I've got it marked, you know, for the butt plate. If you remember when I did that a while ago. And so I'm just basically shaving off the wood, and I'm just keeping the contour of the stock as I go. And I'm going to leave it just probably about a 1/16 of an inch bigger than the butt plate. Then I'll fine tune it with a block sander. And I want to be careful and leave the original markings on there. I think y'all can see that. I know these videos can get drawn out and boring, so I try to keep them as interesting as I can, and I try to give the editor plenty to work with. That way it'll be a good learning experience, and you won't be just bored to death watching them. Even with this right here, you want to kind of go easy with it. The wood's not very level at this point, so you're going to have some heavy shavings and light shavings. You want to keep doing it until you got an even shave. Keeping an eye on everything back there in the back. There. Now the piece of wood's kind of shaping on in with it, a little high right there. Feel it cutting into the aqua glass. And when you're doing this, when you're using your tools, especially with these planers here, after you do it a while, you'll know when to press down, apply pressure, and when to let off, and when to go fast with it and light with it. I guess if you're not used to using a planer, I would probably suggest using maybe a block sander with some 80 grit sandpaper, maybe, and be ready to spend some time with it, because none of this stuff is quick. If it's quick, I'd be a millionaire, because I could get to work out quick, but ain't no rushing it. And I'm going to leave an aqua glass on there, but I'm going to sand it off with a block sander. I don't want to get too crazy with this little planer here. But anyway, there we are so far. In the grain of the wood, you can see how the old wood and the new wood here, it's going to kind of, conflict a little bit, but looks like the grain's going pretty much with it, if you can tell. And I'll put a stain on it, and that'll kind of bring it all in. This side here looks more color-wise to the new wood than the other side there, but I'll set the block sander up. We'll do a little block sanding. Okay, there's the stock. I got my block sander here all set up. Basically all I'm going to do is just kind of contour everything in with it. I didn't hear where it was kind of rough, and hit that especially. What I may do is take the file Right in this area right here, and kind of hit it with that, and that'll kind of pull that off the glass that's on the outside of the wood. It's kind of sitting on top of the wood. Kind of taper that on in. Keeping an eye on your contour back here. You don't want to lose that shape, but you're going to be putting the butt plate on here in a little while. That's one thing about this kind of work. You want to make sure you got planers and sanders and files and things like that at hand, because you never know what you're going to have as you go. This is kind of not a fine file, but it's fine enough where it ain't gonna take big chunks out at a time, which is ideal for taking this aqua glass and tapering it in. And the whole time I'm doing this, I'm kind of watching everything and making sure I still got the contour here. We got some bad spots in the wood right there, as you can tell, and that's where the file will come in really handy. Basically, it's about like a pit in a piece of metal. Wood is, if it's got bad places in it. And a lot of times you can heat that and put an iron on it and they'll raise it. In this case here, I believe it's gouged. So what you'll do is, a lot of those places may look deep and they may look bad, but you can take a file and you can feather that. You know, don't just hit in one spot, you're just going to make it worse. What you want to do is you want to take that and feather that out throughout the whole piece of wood there. And if it's too deep, once you do make it disappear, sometimes you may have to turn it over and take that much more wood out on this side here. That way when you're looking at it, it ain't gonna look like it's concaved in. You know, you want to make them even on both sides for what the object of the game is. And this stock right here is in kind of bad shape. So I thought, well, this would be a good one to make a video, and I'm going to show you what it's going to look like after I get it finished as well. I'm going as far as I can, short of hitting these numbers here. And that is some old wood. I can smell it. What I'm going to do, I think now, is I'm going to pull this stock off this little vise. And I'm going to go ahead and put the butt plate on it. Take a minute or two, so I'll cut the camera off, and then we'll put it back on the vise and start fitting this end here to that butt plate. Alright, I went on ahead and put that butt plate on there. We still got a little bit of wood there. It's going to have to be sanded to get it contoured. Everything fits really good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it back up on the vise here, and I'm going to go ahead and sand all that in. And you know, basically, you know the routine, just basically going to use the block sander and the tools over there as I go. Except bipod, it's not going to cooperate. But anyway, that's kind of how that's going to go down. I'll go ahead and get that sanded in, and that should fit really good. Okay, here we are with it up on the vise. And we can see how much wood that we have there on the end of that. And one of the good things about this particular situation right here is, of course, it's a metal butt plate. And I can always cut into the metal butt plate and then polish it. Of course, all we have here is the wood and, you know, the hardware that goes with the wood. Don't have the gun itself. But basically what I'm going to do, if I can get this bipod set up, thing down here where y'all can see that. There we go. Basically all you're going to do is take your file and you're just going to follow the contour of the wood with your file. And you're going to keep doing that until that wood blends into the metal. Just making sure that you keep that contour with that. And you'll use the butt plate as a template. The butt plate to be as a template, the contour of the wood to be as a template, and you just bring all that in together. Okay, I want to kind of give everybody a tip on sanding. You know, when you get one that's in really bad shape, I hope y'all can see this. I got that bipod set up to where hopefully you can see it. But anyway, basically what it all boils down to is my polishing wheel here. I got the 140 grit on it, and I kind of sort of use this right here, the same thing I would like sandpaper, I guess, if you will. A lot of times when you get a stock, it's got a lot of real bad places in it. The quickest way to get them nicks out is with a file. Now you can sit there and you can sand it by hand and all that with, say, some 80 grit sandpaper, and that'd do good too. It just takes a long time, but thought I'd let you in on this little secret. What I usually do in a situation like this, I'll take and hit it with this 140 wheel right here, and like if it's got dents and stuff in it, I'll feather the dents out throughout the wood like I would a piece of metal with a pit in it. And of course, you know, I'll look at it and take the same amount off both sides if it's noticeable. And I'm going to do a little bit of it here and just kind of give you an idea of how I do this. And of course, you'll have to fine tune it when you get it all the bad places out. When you go as far as you can with that, then you'll have to carry it in there, and then you'll have to, you know, start hand sanding it. But it goes a lot quicker once you address these spots like that right there. I don't know if you can see that or not, but anyway, of course, same principle as the metal. When you're polishing, you don't want to knock the corners off. You want to keep them sharp, and just got to use the same common sense. So it's the same principle when you go to polish as though you're polishing the steel for bluing or nickel plating or anything like that. Bottom line is, it's only going to look as good as the prep work. You know, just like I've explained in the polishing videos for the metal. But it's kind of the same principle. I just use this right here because it's a lot quicker, and it helps me to get over to the fine tuning part, the fine tune of sanding it, a whole lot quicker than just sitting in there, you know, and sanding the heck out of it. It takes a lot longer. Anyway, I'll demonstrate a little bit, and I'm going to cut the fan on. My advice is to wear a respirator, or, you know, be in a well-ventilated area if you're going to do this. In my case, I've got a well-ventilated area here, so it's going to be a little noisy, but I'll cut that on, and I'll do some sanding here and kind of give you some ideas, and I hope you can hear me when I give you a comment on it as we go. Sometimes you can use a 500 grit, but the 140 usually works best. Basically, you're just feathering out the little dents and the dings. And if it's got a finish on it, this works wonderfully for removing the finish. Of course, any kind of checkering or anything like that, you wouldn't want to use this on. You'll want to use acid on checkering and things like that. But any smooth surfaces or rounded surfaces like this right here, you just want to make sure you don't put a flat spot on it, but it takes the old finish off wonderfully. And I'll hit back over that with sandpaper here in a few minutes. This is just kind of taking a shortcut. Right in there where it's really dinged up. Always feel, make sure you ain't got no real flat spots in it. And that's where the fine tuning with the sandpaper is going to come in, because you'll just round all that back off, and of course it ain't going to be that flat anyway. Sandpaper round it off real nice. Right in them little areas right there, you can kind of hit in there with that wheel. Have to use common sense with it. Sometimes you'll want to be careful and just use a little round sanding block for things like this. Sometimes I'll get down in there, but I'm always really cautious about places like that when it comes to this wheel. And of course you have to clean your wheel off periodically, with a block, and then just reboot it with the 140 grit, about like it is when you're polishing metal. It does load up a lot quicker with this wood here, because it gets inside there a lot quicker and kind of causes it to fill up, I guess if you will. And then you don't have the sanding that you will with a fresh load up. But so far so good. Usually a lot of oily stock causes it to do that. There we are so far, looking really good. Now what I'll probably do, I probably went about as far as I want to with this wheel right here. Now what I'll probably do is go in there. Of course I done been sanding on it a few minutes before I turn the video on. I'll go in there now and I'll put a little electric sander to it. A little jitterbug sander, I guess if you will, and sand it in real good. Then I'll follow it up by some hand sanding. Okay, here we are back in the sanding room on the sanding vise here. Everybody's familiar with. Well, that'll take a minute. I've done been doing a little bit of sanding, with this little jitterbug sander. It does a wonderful job. Just want to, be careful not to focus on the corners or anything, because even with this right here, it'll knock the corners off. So you want to be careful with that. It does a wonderful job. I mean, it really does. It really speeds up the process. I just want to kind of let everybody in on this little tip right here. Of course, when you're doing this gunsmithing thing, this is what the folks who thinking about making a career out of this. And of course, I'm here to give you a hand if I can. Nothing else, to give you some good tips. But anyway, what I do, because a lot of these sanding blocks have to be custom made for little situations like in there, places like that. You use dowel rods or whatever. But one of the best things I've found is going to AutoZone or O'Reilly, somewhere like it sells auto parts, You can buy these rubber blocks here. I think they're used to stick in the springs of trucks or cars to raise them up. But man, that stuff right there is some really good stuff to make sanding blocks with. What I do is I just custom cut them, you know, with a bandsaw and round them off. And then I can take a piece of sandpaper, cut me a little slot in there to kind of hold it. You know, and then just kind of wrap it around there like so. But it's a really good sanding block, and you can custom cut them, and they ain't very expensive at all. So you know you can afford to mess a few of them up. You know, if you want to, I guess is the word I'm trying to say. But anyway, they last forever, and they're really inexpensive. But yeah, sometimes you just want to kind of think outside the box. You go to AutoZone, places like that, and just get things like this right here. You know, make a lot of your tools for sanding and stuff like that. So anyway, I just kind of want to let you in on that little tip as well. Sure save yourself a lot of money, you know, just by thinking outside the box. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go ahead and fine tune this right here with the sander. Still got a little ways to go yet on it, but you can see how that wood, you know, blended in really nice. So far so good. It is a shade darker than, you know, the wood here. One side's a little lighter on this wood right here, and this side right here is a little darker. And that's, you know, you don't really know that until you start taking that finish off. But it don't matter in this case here, because this is old military stock here anyway. He just wants to look really nice. And I'm going to put him a stain on it. And then I'm going to start filling in the grain with Truoil. And then I'm going to put a polyurethane finish on it when it's all said and done. Not a shiny finish, sort of a, I guess a semi-gloss standard finish. When it's all said and done, that'll seal the wood. And right now I'm just in the process of getting all the dead wood off of this right here. It had a lot of yellow wood that come off of it, and that's just oil soaked wood, and got most of the bad places out. Still managed to leave the serial number there. I think you can see that. Of course, you'll see it a lot better when I put the stain on it, but it's on there pretty good. It's hard to see on that camera, I know, but anyway, once I get all these little dings out of it, you know, smoothed out. The dings are gone. I got them out with that wheel in yonder, the 140 grit wheel. But it still leaves a little stain. And of course you gotta sand them out. Of course I could probably get them out with that wheel in there, but they'd probably put dips in it, but we don't want to do that. And if we do put a dip in it, we want to make sure we can get it out by hand sanding. So anyway, I'll just cut the camera off and go ahead and finish fine tuning this. Won't bore you with making you sit through all that, because I still got a little ways yet to go on it, but that right there really save a lot of time if you'll get things like this right here and just use dowel rods. Kind of make your own sanding blocks. Of course you can buy them if you want to, but no matter what you buy, you're always going to have to custom make you one depending on your situation, because a lot of these guns, you know, are all different. All right, got all the little fine-tuned sanding done on that. Everything sanded up really nice. Which you can tell that right there, you know, after it's all said and done, it's a little bit darker than the rest of the wood. The grain seems to be running pretty good with it. Of course, right in this area right here, where this right here runs this way, of course, you can tell that's definitely not the original piece. And it's got a little bit of oil stained right in there. And they, you know, a lot of times on these old stocks like this right here, even shotguns, it's been sitting up in the corner for years. Right there where the receiver would meet the wood, a lot of times it's almost black in that area, and there is not very much you can do about that. That's a oil stain that's been stained in. You can boil the wood, and a lot of times that'll lighten it up. And there's other little methods that'll lighten it up, but in most cases you can't get a lot of those stains out. This one right here isn't too bad. It had a lot of bad stains, but they all lightened up pretty good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go over it with a light walnut stain over the whole thing, and that should even everything up pretty good and bring out the grain. And right in that area right there, you'll always be able to tell it, like I've said before, because it's such a big area. But I think it's going to turn out really nice. I'm going to put a Truoil finish on it after I get the grains all filled in. Smooth up real good. We got all the little bad nicks and places like that out of it. That was really a bad eyesore. A few little light spots here and there, but all in all, I think it's going to turn out really nice. And this one right here was in pretty rough shape. Everybody remembers what it looked like before. So I'm going to put a light stain on it, and then we'll start the refinishing process. Okay, here we are with the walnut stain on the stock so far. Got a coat of walnut stain on it. Just put it on there so it's wet. It's absorbing into the wood. It's looking really nice. You can still see where that other piece of wood is right there. You can see that line right there, which, you know, we done discussed that. We knew that was probably going to be seen. Ain't no way you can really hide that. But it is blending in really nice. I'm really pleased with it. Even got the little serial number there on there. Left that on there as well. One of the reasons why I like to put stain on especially a military stock, is because they've got those little dings all in it. Of course, you can get the dings out of it, but you still got a little dot, a little stain dot that's usually left on there. And most of the time when you put this stain on it, they'll usually blend in, which in this case, that's what's happening. And so what I'll probably end up doing is, I know I discussed about putting a polyurethane finish on it when it's all said and done, but I think what we're going to do is we're going to go with what they call a Truoil hunter's finish, and that's really a good finish for a gun stock that's got a lot of oil in it. In this particular case here, most of your military stocks do, because they put that cosmoline on the metal, and of course this stock here is probably about 50 or 60 years old, and it was soaked in pretty good with oil. So what I'll probably end up doing is just filling all the grain in with the Truoil. And then after I do that, I'll probably take and put a candle wax protectant over it. And basically what that all boils down to is, after you get it all your Truoil on it, and you get your grains filled in, and it's nice and smooth to the touch, just take basically a piece of candle wax, and you just mark over the whole stock, you know, and then you take a clean paper towel and just rub all that in. And what that'll do, that will bring the sheen of that wood out. It'll bring out those grains, and really make it look nice, and it will seal the wood. The Truoil is going to seal the wood, but that candle wax will put the finishing touch on it. And all you gotta do is just every now and then put a little candle wax on it and rub it in, and it'll bring that finish right out. I mean, they've got expensive, you know, polishes you can put on them and stuff like that, but I'll just be honest with you, I ain't never seen anything does as good as candle wax on a Truoil hunter's finish. The polyurethane's a really good finish. You don't really have to put the candle wax on that, but in this case right here, because we do have a lot of oil in the wood, I think it'd be best to play it all by ear, and most likely we'll probably end up putting the Truoil hunter's finish on it. So that's where we're at with it so far. And I believe it's going to be a nice looking stock when it's all said and done. Okay, here we are fixing to put the Truoil on this gun stock. I done got the stain on it, and I went over it with some 00 steel wool a while ago. Basically all you do is, after the stain sets up and gets dry, you just buff it back down, you know, to a smooth texture like you see here. And of course you can see that wood being a little bit darker, and like I said, you're probably always going to be able to see that because it's such a big area there, but at least it's not an eyesore like it was before. So anyway, what I'm going to do here in this part of the video is I'm going to apply Truoil, and I'm going to show you the way I do it. I hope you can see all that. Usually I'll hang these up in there in the finishing room, but for the video's sake, I'm going to just do it here on this vise here. I'm just basically going to show you how I do that. And it's pretty much common sense. Just make sure your hands are clean. If you've got a little dust on it, it won't matter. But just basically just put a generous amount out on your hand, depending on the stock you're doing. Just kind of rub it in, and then you just basically apply it to the wood. And what you want to do is you want to make sure you get it good and even. You don't want it to be so thick on there that it starts running. Just want a good even coat of Truoil all over, just like it. Don't do it like a lot of folks do. Put a little bit on your finger and do this right here. I mean, I guess you can do it if that's what you want to do, but even if you don't do it for a living, and you know, this is the way I have always done it. What I do is just put a good generous amount on there, you know, not so much as that it runs, but just want to put it on there to where it's all in all areas of it. Of course, I won't be able to get in on the very end there because it's up against that holder there, but it's no big deal. I'll come back and get it later. Just make sure that you get it all nice and even and uniform. That's the main thing with this, and not so much that it wants to run. Now this is probably the only portion that I'm going to show of me applying the Truoil. I will show myself here in a few minutes. Maybe I'll show it, me applying it again here after this first coat dries. But what I will do is I will take and after this dries, I'll take 00 steel wool and I'll buff it all in, and I'm going to show you what it should look like before you apply your second coat. And you'll just keep repeating that until you've got a nice, smooth, uniformed finish on it. In other words, all your grain will be filled and it'll have a smooth texture to it. And like I said, instead of putting the polyurethane on this, we're going to go with the candle wax finish is what I call it. And basically all that's going to boil down to is after I get the uniformed, smooth finish, smooth feel to it, I'll show you how I would apply that, and I will show you how I take a paper towel and rub that in, and that is really going to make this wood pop. It's really going to look nice. So I just basically just put this up here, make sure there ain't no puddling going on. Just let the wood absorb it in. Like I said, that right there, you know, is the only thing. It's gonna be able to see that, but we all kind of knew that, but it still looks really good. So I'll cut the camera off and we'll let this dry, and then I'll go over the buffing of the Truoil for the second coat. Okay, here we are 24 hours later. I done put the first coat of Truoil on here. You know, you see me take and stain it, and then you see the stain was dry. Then I buffed it off with 00 steel wool, and then I put the first coat of Truoil on, and that was 24 hours ago. Here we are the next day, and there it is dry. And it's, you know, filling in really good. That's our first coat. So I thought, well, I'll go ahead and buff off this first coat with 00 steel wool, which is the same routine you're going to do until it gets, all the grains get filled in the way you'd like them to be. And basically all you do is just basically polish with the grain until you get a dull look to it. Making sure you get all around the edges and corners and stuff. Hope everybody can see this. Oh, you want to hang over your steel wool. But you just want to make sure that you polish it not super hard, just kind of lightly. Put some light pressure on it to make sure your steel wool is going to do its job and knock that little sheen off of it. Just want to detail polish it with the steel wool. Okay, here we are. We done put about 5 coats of Truoil on this. Up there we can really see it. And it really looks good, you know, like it is right now. You know, it's kind of up to the customer, you know, if you want to leave it that way you can. I know most of military stocks and people who like hunter's finishes, they like it to be a little duller than this. So what I'm going to put on here is I'm going to put a wax finish on it. And what I'm going to do is, got about 5 coats of Truoil on it. And it's really smooth to the touch and it looks really good. And I'm going to take some 00 steel wool, like I've been doing in the past here. And I'm just going to knock that sheen off of it with this 00 steel wool, get it good and even. Making sure we get it nice and uniformed. One of the things about just leaving the Truoil finish on there, if you want to kind of keep it shiny, is sometimes it's not perfectly even, which a lot of people haven't got no problem with that. But with this way right here, this right here definitely even everything out. And plus that wax you put on there, I'm going to show you in a minute, will help seal that wood. Just want to make sure you get it perfectly uniformed. In other words, get that shine off of it. I done the end up here where it's clamped up in the vise. Well, basically detail polish it with a steel wool. Using 00 steel wool, just kind of uniformly smoothing it all down even. I mean, it had a good feel to it before I even used the steel wool, but this right here really brings it out. I mean, it really feels nice. Ain't no rough spot in. I figure it's a whole lot easier and better to show somebody what to do than just to try to explain it. You know, if I explain it as I show it, you probably understand it a lot better. At least that's the way it works for me anyway. So that's the reason why I try to make these videos in full detail as I am doing a project. And that did blend in pretty good. I mean, it's you can definitely tell it's a little different, but at least now it's serviceable again, and it looks really nice. Just a light buff once you get the shine off of it and you get everything back down uniformed. Just start going kind of light with it with the steel wool. Kind of looking at it in the light, making sure you don't see any kind of shine to it at all. And if you do see a shiny area, just kind of buff over it with the steel wool, and that'll accept that wax finish much better. I mean, you can put the wax finish over the shiny, I guess, but it just seems to absorb into the wood much better when it's kind of got that hunter's finish look to it. And I like to make good and sure that I'm fully detailed on my polishing, right here around the edges especially. And right back here where the grip is. and inside these little inside this finger groove here. Right in this area right here. I'm pretty satisfied with that. I think that right there looks really nice. We got a nice smooth uniform feel to it. And it was smooth before, but it's really nice and smooth now. Alright, there it is. Now that right there is what they call a hunter's finish. That's what Truoil calls their hunter's finish, which nothing in the world wrong with that. Got a little bit of a shine to it, but nothing much at all. Nice smooth finish. Now here's where I put what I call the candle wax finish on this. And basically what you do, get you a clean piece of candle wax, which is what this is. And I'll probably send the customer some of this right here when I send him his stocks back. You know, take the kind of blow off any dust that might be on it. And then you just take the smooth part of the candle wax, making sure there ain't no dirt or sand or grit in it. This is a clean piece right here. And you just basically just kind of lightly mark everything up real good. I wouldn't drip it on there, heat it up, and take a candle and drip it on there. You can do that, I guess, but it just always seemed to work out much better just by doing it this way. Get real good right around in these drip areas. All around the end of it there. And just a nice marking, I guess you feel like a kid would take a crayon, I guess, and mark a wall up. Basically the same principle. Then when you get it all marked up the way you want it, a good coat of wax on it basically. What you want to do next, get you some clean paper towels, what I like to use, or you can use a cotton rag or whatever. Make sure it's clean, obviously, and then just buff that in real good. And man, that really seals that wood, and you ain't got to spend a lot of money on any fancy sealers or anything like that. And that's a military look for a military stock or hunter stock, whatever it might be used for. I know a lot of times on the M1 Garands and guns like that people want to have refinished. A lot of times I'll go with this right here, and people absolutely love it. And another good thing about marking that on there, you got to put a little elbow grease in with it, and that helps rub that wax into that wood. There it is. That's got a really nice look to it. Got a little bit of a sheen to it. Well sealed. And just from time to time, recoat that when you maintenance it. And I believe that'll be sealed for years to come. The main thing is making sure that you got a nice clean piece of wax with no dirt in it, no grit or anything. It's going to scratch it. And if you do, it ain't the end of the world. You can always buff back over that scratch with some 00 steel wool, and maybe take a little Truoil and put it on your finger, and one or two coats maybe, you know, and it'll usually blend right in with no problem. That's one of the good things about a Truoil finish. You know, you spray the polyurethane finish on there and you scratch it, there ain't much you can do with it. But one of the good things about this right here is if you scratch it, so I guess that's why they call it a hunter's finish. You get a briar or something, go across it, put a scratch on it, take some 00 steel wool, blend it back in, take your little Truoil and put it in that area. Might have to do it 3 or 4 times, you know, just keep repeating the procedure, you know, every 24 hours. And then just take your 00 steel wool until it blends again, then just take your candle wax and just mark in that area, you know, and buff it in. And it usually just disappears unless you've dented the wood or something or gouged it. But just your regular everyday scratches will usually blend right in. And I don't know if you can see the serial number or not, but of course it's still on there nice, and I really enhanced that wood. And you can't really tell on this side right here, you can see a little bit, you know, where the wood was joined to the stock, but of course this side right here is pretty much gone. Of course there wasn't a whole lot on this side right here to be seen anyway, but and you can see a little bit of the aqua glass right here, you know, but really not much to speak of. So what I'll probably do now is go ahead and install the hardware. He didn't ask to blue the hardware or anything. He just sent the stock and the butt plate and, you know, the hardware that went with this stock. So what I'll probably do is just reinstall that and call the customer and get his stock back to him. And I want to give a big shout out to Ron, who this stock belongs to. Real good guy, really patient, and told him I might make a video on it, you know, kind of explaining the procedure of adding a piece of wood. We made one time before with a, I think it was a Winchester Model 37, you know, where I put pieces of wood in on the top. Turned out real nice. Of course, obviously the smaller the piece you put in, the less you're going to notice it, and the less you have to really detail it. But this one right here is a pretty good chunk. Still, it's serviceable. It looks real nice, and I believe he'll really enjoy this. All right, we are finished with it. I believe my customer Ron will really be happy with this. It turned out really nice. Got the Truoil Hunter's finish on it, sealed in candle wax. I believe that's probably about the best sealant you'll put on a Truoil Hunter's finish. I've tried all kind of things, furniture polish and stuff like that. Anything you put on is going to have little dull spots in it, but the candle wax seems to really bring it out. And it's a simple method. Just put a little on there like we showed you on the video, and just rub it in with a paper towel, and you got it. You know, if you decide you want me to do a stock for you, or blue a gun, or just about anything, I've got different videos showing different things I do here. Well, feel free to give me a call. Area code 615-746-9668. If I don't pick up, leave me a message and I'll call you back. And as usual, I really do appreciate everybody watching these videos.